Agenda, approving job descriptions for city administrator, public works manager, and community development manager.
So at the council retreat, we talked about Mayor Dyer's presentation to the council about, adding some staff, splitting positions, and what that would do for the city. So really kind of an organizational shift a little bit, if you will, to help out in areas that really need the help. And so this is the first step in putting it before council. The job descriptions for public works manager and community development manager have been being worked on for quite a few months. And city administrator is in the city code. Just there wasn't a full-blown job description, so we came up with that about the last month.
Council discussion?
Well, this is fine, go ahead and update these job descriptions and everything else, but at this point right now, I'm not in agreement that we need a city administrator. That is, down the road, I'm not going to sanction one at this point.
One of my questions, I saw a job description for a head planner.
So it's actually taking bits and pieces from different job descriptions, and it's a community development manager.
Okay, so,
But they would have each kind of experience. We have a plan.
okay, bear with me. So this is Ken, basically the job that Ken Burnett's in right now? No. Meaning when the public works manager and the community development manager.
Correct.
So these,
Let me explain what it is.
there's,
The title that Ken is filling is the interim public works director / community development director, okay? But he does not have the qualifications for the community development piece of that. And then when I first took office, probably after I was in office, maybe 2 or 3 months, we put out the job description for the public works / community development director. We put it out, we had it out for about, I think, a month. We had about 18 people apply for the job. And what had happened, what we found is people were skilled in this, or they were skilled in this, but they didn't have both for that price. So looking at it and discussing with the staff and talking with other cities, when I go to the SBA meetings or with AWC, and talking about what other cities do in that situation. The number one thing that they do is it's split. They're 2 different positions because it's very unique to find somebody that's qualified in both positions to have this. We're very fortunate to have somebody like Jay Bennett that works for the city, but we really haven't had somebody that's been qualified in both, and by separating those out, and not making them director positions, but making them manager positions, which lowers that salary as well. And then you're able to have people that are focused and are skilled in the areas where we really need to grow the city. The community development piece, we're severely lacking in the city right now as far as, Paula does a great job. She's a planner. That's her job. We need somebody that's going to grow, go after the money, and really track the grants, bringing grants to the city, developing our programs. This person will also develop the programs for the youth and senior as well. We just don't have that piece in the city. And for us to move forward, right now we have a bit of stuff on the plate. We're not going after more. We don't have the capability to do that. The public works manager, that's an area where somebody like Ken is very expertise. They could handle that, and they would oversee the public works side of it, the crew outside and the streets and that piece, and we just kind of, but they would work side by side, those 2 people, in working and growing that department as a whole. Right now, everybody in there is overworked, has too much on their plate, and nobody can stay on top of it.
and they both these full-time jobs? And then the head planner, is that a third
No,
job?
that's the same.
Or?
It's the same. Your community development person will have planner expertise.
Okay, my other question is, how does the salary configure with what it is now? Low range for the 2 combined is $9,900. High range for the 2 combined is $12,200. So are we going to be paying more for these two people?
What we do is we'll probably be bringing people in at the lower range, because they're gonna be people that, in talking with AWC especially, and SCA, with different people in a city our size, and bringing people in, they'll be new and needing the experience, and young and energetic and kind of go-getter people, and be able to develop their skills, basically to move on to bigger and better. You know, but they need a starting position. It's almost like an entry-level type manager position that has some skill sets that they'll be bringing to the table, but not enough for, you know, to go to Kent or Seattle or something like that. It's kind of, we're a smaller city and will attract, you know, somebody that really wants to have an opportunity to make a name for themselves to move forward.
And these are non-union jobs?
Correct.
Okay.
So, just so you know, I know we talked about this at the retreat, and we had a lengthy discussion on it, and this is something that I sat and thought long and hard at. Like I said, I've talked to other cities and trying to figure out what we can do, you know, and making sure that is it worth for the city to invest in this, and it's something that we can try, and at the end of the year, it's not working, you know, we go back to what we were doing. It's an opportunity to lessen the workload. I'm telling you, these guys have really held it together, but there's some things that we're missing. We're not 100% at the table because everybody is spread way too thin and then expecting a lot from everybody that's in there, and we haven't had it fully staffed for a very long time. And things have been kind of slipping through the cracks, and my hat is off to everybody that's working in that department. They're working very hard, they're putting in a lot of hours. And I know there are people that are working more hours in that department than they're claiming, you know, because they care about the city, but that's not right. It's not the right way to do business. And if we want to continue to grow our city, to get funding for the streets and the projects that we want done here, we're going to have help in that department. It's just not going to happen without it.
The bottom line is we need qualified people in supervisory positions so that they can provide guidance to the subordinates below them and keep them on track, on task, and make efficient use of the human resources that we have, as well as the other resources that we have that they'll be supervising.
The city administrator job description here has an effective date on it of 1/1/05. Is this unchanged from the existing one?
I guess I missed that, no?
That's the date that was approved.
Okay, so, but it has been edited since then?
Yes.
Okay.
Question, you know, on some of this I've talked about a combination administrator / finance director, but I don't see that in the job description or the proposed. I see a city administrator, but I don't see a city administrator / finance director. So what?
Well, that's what our code calls for, is the city administrator will be the chief, what is that, the chief financial officer.
CFO, right.
Yeah, try not to use acronyms.
Sorry.
Well, I'm just thinking, like I said,
It also,
So our code itself states that.
and the job description does say that the city administrator will be the acting finance director. And we can make it more, you know, direct in how we spelled it out, but that's what the position would be.
I just want to make sure there's a clear distinction, because I do see it discussed one way, and the job description is discussed in different ways. I just want to make sure that we don't have misunderstanding between what people are looking at and what they think they're seeing.
Right, if they're one and the same, the same.
Should the verbiage be put in there, like chief financial officer?
We can do that.
And just to be clear, we are adding one FTE with this proposal.
Is that the total adjustment to that count?
Well, actually, for this right here, we're taking the one position, public works director, community development director, splitting in the two, but in the budget, we have the placeholder of FTEs for a community services director, which we're not gonna hire.
Well, they're the same, though, the public works director, community development.
No, I'm saying community services, remember, you had to put that in.
Yeah.
So Leanne had us put that in late last year, in case we did have, because they used to have a community services director here, as recent as 2013, right?
Right.
Right, and so we're not going that way, we're removing that and,
We have the budget, but currently employed, we are
Right.
at 1 FTE.
yes, correct.
We have it budgeted for, that's all, I was just making a statement so that everyone was aware of this, the impact.
And a whole lot of hiring. just-
Right.
It's another question, looking at the chart, because I wasn't at the off-site event that day, and, but it seems a lot relatively flat when we talk about public works manager going to public works staff, but it doesn't talk about code enforcement, which is technically is Ken's official job description. He's been an interim for so long as you can kick the stick at it, but nonetheless, probably longer than it really should be, but, and it's nothing against what he's been doing, but it's just the way, what we've been allowing to happen. But so, I don't see that in this chart, so,
Well, that would be underneath,
because it's not
When you're
technically
looking
part
at
of public works.
well, it's not broken down to every single
I know.
job, isn't broken down.
So-
But it would be the code enforcement, which we do have a FTE in the schedule, and so there still would be a code enforcement person that's still,
Under public works staff, or would it be?
You have to-
under public works staff, and it would be code enforcement.
It's under this in here, all the other stuff.
So it's an FTE that's already budgeted for in our schedule, and it's a represented position as well, where the public works manager is not a
I
representative.
understand. I just wanted, because I didn't see it, so, like I said, it's reflective of a pretty flat
Right, and we
line.
discussed it when we talked about it at the retreat, but, and I guess for clarity, you know, the kind of all those things, because under the community development manager would also be the planner, and then the permit technician would go underneath that as well. So the public works side would be code and the crew, the public works crew.
But I
So
don't
for
see it.
clarity.
I don't see it on the FTH.
The code,
The ability inspector code enforcement,
Probably building inspector.
yeah.
just down there, halfway down.
I was like, I'm sure we budgeted for
We did,
it.
we did.
There it is, okay,
There
never
it
mind.
is.
I was looking for it.
Yeah, I need to rearrange the actual heading of these, because they're not in any kind of order, I don't, guess I took it from before, so we'll make more sense.
Probably structured by department, so.
The city administrator, public works manager, and community development manager, do all these jobs have to be posted?
The the city administrator, no,
Okay.
because it's a promotion from within, but the other two jobs do have to be posted. So Ken would be encouraged to apply for that, but the other two jobs have to be posted.
They do have jobs.
And that was kind of the reasons why I wanted it on to tonight's agenda, have some discussion, hopefully move it forward to the next meeting to approve it so we can post the position. My goal would be, if with council's approval, that starting July 1 or right in that time frame, we're going to be up and running with.
With the hiring, okay, so they do have to be posted.
They do have to be posted, and they'll be posted for 2 weeks is the plan.
Okay.
If with council's approval, to move it forward. I thought long and hard and looked at it and really had some long conversations with everybody, you know, with Ken and Jim in the department, and looking on how we can really enhance this department and make it better, you know, and looking at what the qualifications were the last time that we posted that position as a director and what we received, you know. I struggled with it for a long time, to splitting it up and making that change into our budget, because next year it is going to be a change to our budget. Right now, we're under because we haven't filled positions, and that's why we're in the position that we are, because we didn't fill positions.
Okay, that's good. I hope you're wrong. Okay, so after these are posted and you have job applicants come in, are you the one that does the hiring? Or does it get presented to council?
The managers I want to bring in front of council for confirmation. Don't have to do that, normally superintendent or director positions, but I want council totally on board with this moving forward.
If they are confirmable positions, don't we have to put them in code?
You don't want, you can bring them to us, but we can't confirm.
Unless they're confirmable. We can check code on that.
Yeah, we'll double check.
We will.
That's
That might
okay.
happen in code.
And we're down the road with it. I
Like
mostly
supervision.
want council
Supervisor.
weigh in on it, approval to move forward, accepting of these job descriptions. And like I said, with these being managers, I want council's buy-in.
I would make maybe a different suggestion. Why don't you have the Public Works Committee review the applicants? You make your suggestion, they weigh in, and then you make a decision. I mean, they work for you ultimately. And then
Public
just
Works.
announce them to council when all your decisions made.
Council's thoughts on that. I mean,
Public Works is down for Gary last when
But that'll get filled.
it's supposed to be taken care of tonight.
I mean, ultimately, you can do it yourself without any input, but I think having Public Works would give you at least 3 council members weighing in, and then you make your decision. Ultimately, the decision's yours to make anyway, they work for you, and that way, keep that separation of the executive branch from the legislative branch.
Well, the directors are always had to been confirmed by
This isn't a
council.
director position.
True, it's not, but it's still a management position, and I would really, I mean, personally, I just feel better having council a part of that. That's how I feel about it.
Are you
I'd
bringing the
rather
top
hear-
3 candidates and asking us to weigh in, or are you giving us
I
your?
would bring council by choice candidate and let them interview and say yea or nay.
Council Rules of Procedure, Part 11, do specify that council shall establish policies and guidelines for interviewing and filling of all non-represented staff positions. So, and I believe the existing policy on that is that the executive selects the candidate and brings it to us for confirmation.
There you go.
There you go.
So she's free to use any legal means she wants to make that selection, but
Council still would confirm.
yeah.
Just a question related to the budget associated with this adjustment. So I think ultimately that's the thing we need to deal with, council. One, besides confirmation of your selection. We'll deal with the job descriptions, and then looking at the budget, because it's going to be a budget adjustment,
Right.
you know, and then that's where council needs to approve or not approve. You know, if we don't approve the budget, there's no movement forward,
Exactly.
you know, so that, and so the mayor would need to come to us and give us the justification why the adjustment needs to be made and what are the benefits from it, and then look at the application process, and, you know, if we approve that adjustment in the budget.
Well, and that, tomorrow night at the finance committee, we're gonna go over the proposed budget, and then looking at the schedule, where we'll talk about it, the 3 of us, or 4 of us, and that will come to council in June. Because you're right, you can't move forward unless the budget's changed, amended, to allow for those FTEs. And right now, I'm projecting, actually a savings of near $47,000 with the changes. But we have to look forward to the next year, and that's what we'll talk about tomorrow night.
So for right now, I think for us, the council presented to us, we should move forward and approve the job descriptions that brought forward. The rest of it, we'll deal with after we approve the budget.
Right.
Further council discussion?
Well, in reality, we've got all of these holes in unfilled positions. We're going to have to come up with money to fill these positions, and this is a position that needs to be filled, correct? So this is something that we should be budgeting for anyway. Find the money for it because we need those positions filled, right?
If we fill the positions as in the salary ranges that we project, for the money that has been budgeted for salaries for the year 2014, we're under 40,000, filling those positions
Okay.
with the, next year it would be different, you know, but we haven't done that budget for
Exactly.
next year, so we'll have that moving forward, but in the reality is, it's because we're having FTE changes, and we have to put those in, that has to be approved by council before we can fill those, because it's a budget amendment, and that's what we would be bringing forward, is a budget amendment. But as far as staying within the approved budget, we're under 40,000 with those. Does that make sense? Because we haven't spent the money yet.
Right.
Right.
We budgeted for them, but
Right, it's not allocated.
because we haven't filled.
Any further council discussion? Well, that's council's pleasure.
Move forward.